In this video, I'm going to tell you my story. My name is Layla Hussain, and until I was 17, I was a devout young Muslim woman raised in a traditional and very strict family. One ordinary day, while shopping at the mall with my cousin, everything changed. I was shot in the chest during a shooting and was clinically dead for 8 minutes. What I experienced in that time between life and death challenged everything I believed. Instead of what I had been taught my whole life, I had an encounter that transformed my heart, my faith, and my eternity. This is an intimate, true, and deeply moving testimony about courage, faith, and liberation. Before we begin, please subscribe to the channel and turn on notifications so you don't miss any stories like this that might touch you in an unexpected way. Leave a like if this kind of content resonates with you, and please comment below with the city or country you're watching from. It would be a joy to connect with you and learn how far this message is reaching. May this story speak deeply to your heart. I will never forget the scent of my cousin's perfume mingled with the sweet aroma wafting from the candle shop next door. It was Friday afternoon, and we were at the mall choosing a gift for my brother. I was wearing my favorite blue hijab, the one my mother had given me the previous year. Everything was normal. People were hurrying by, background music was playing softly, and children were laughing as they ran between the shop windows. It was just an ordinary day until it wasn't. Suddenly, I heard a sharp noise, like a muffled explosion. The first thing that came to mind was fireworks, but I soon realized it was something else. People started screaming and running. In seconds, the mall was in chaos. Someone pushed me. I saw a man stumble, carrying a child, and when I turned to take my cousin's hand, I felt an absurd pain in my chest, as if a car had run me over from the inside. My body froze. I looked down and saw the blood spreading rapidly across my blouse. Everything slowed down, as if I were in a strange dream. I tried to scream, but no sound came out. I felt my legs give way and I fell to the icy floor. My cousin was calling my name, but her voice grew distant. It was as if someone had submerged my head underwater. The overhead light dimmed, everything around me began to darken. I knew I was dying. I tried to recite the Shahada. I tried to move my lips. Nothing. That's when despair came. I had always been Muslim since I was little. I recited verses from the Quran by heart. I prayed 5 times a day. I fasted with faith during Ramadan, but there, on that cold floor, with the metallic taste of blood in my mouth, all I felt was fear. A deep fear of not having been good enough, of not having done enough, that it was all ending and I hadn't passed the final test. Everything fell silent in a strange way. It wasn't the silence we hear when we put our fingers in our ears. It was a total, absolute silence, as if sound didn't even exist there. First, I felt a kind of lightness, as if my body had detached from me. When I looked down, I saw my own body lying on the floor of the mall. There were people kneeling around me, a woman crying, a man with his hands on his head. I saw one of the first responders pressing on my chest, doing compressions so hard that it made me shiver just watching, but at the same time, I was floating above, observing everything without being a part of it anymore. My cousin was kneeling beside my body, her hands covered in blood, her face in shock, repeating my name over and over. I tried to talk to her. I tried to scream, "I'm okay, I'm here," but my voice wouldn't come out. My hands passed through the people, as if I were made of air. That's when I understood, I had died. Right after that, the scene slowly faded away, like when we dream and wake up halfway through. Everything went dark until there was nothing left, and then came the hardest part to explain. There was no one, no soul, no noise, no light. Just a dense darkness that didn't seem threatening, but it was cold, empty. I couldn't feel my body, but I was still conscious. I thought, I remembered things, I asked questions. I thought that at that moment I would see the angels of judgment, as they taught us in the mosque classes. I expected to hear voices asking, "Who is your Lord? What is your religion?" But nothing happened, only silence, only darkness. Only me and the weight of all the questions flooding my mind. Was I not good enough? Did I fail God? Was He ignoring me? It was then that a terrible feeling came over me. What if everything I had experienced, Everything I had been taught wasn't exactly as I thought. In that dark void, anguish gripped me. I had never felt so alone. It wasn't physical loneliness, it was something much deeper, a feeling of being forgotten, of having been left behind. I began to remember every prayer I had ever said. I remembered the fasts, the verses I had memorized with such effort, the times I cried while praying, asking for guidance. But along with those memories came those I avoided, the times I doubted, the times I did something in secret, the thoughts I pretended not to have. It was as if everything was being projected inside me at once. I tried to justify myself, tried to calm down, but the more I thought, the emptier I felt. I began to call out to God, "Allah, answer me, I am here," but there was no answer. I called out again, I screamed inside, nothing, no sign, no presence. It was then that I stopped trying to argue and just wept. I wept without a body, without tears, but with a pain that pierced through whatever I still was in that place. Then, far in the distance, I saw a point of light. It seemed small at first, almost like a spark, but as I focused my attention, it grew. It was a light unlike anything I had ever seen. It wasn't just a brightness, it seemed alive, it pulsed, it breathed, and somehow it called to me. That's when my fear began to change. I was still confused, but I felt something I hadn't felt for many minutes, hope. I started moving toward the light, not walking, because I didn't have a body, but being carried as if the light itself were pulling me. As it drew closer, I began to feel a peace that was almost physical. It was as if the emptiness that had been crushing me before had begun to dissolve, and then, without me realizing exactly when, I was completely enveloped by that light. I saw no more darkness, I only felt warmth, love, truth, and a presence. Someone was there with me. Even without seeing with my eyes, I knew I was no longer alone. At first, I didn't understand what was happening. I felt a presence with me, but it was different from anything I had felt in prayer, different from everything I had been taught about God. It wasn't fear, it wasn't judgment, it was something that left me completely exposed and at the same time safe, as if that presence knew everything about me, every thought, every mistake, every doubt, and yet remained there beside me without accusing me. Little by little, that presence took shape, not as a physical body seen with the eyes, but as a visible consciousness, if that makes sense. And then I knew, I can't explain how, but I simply knew, it was Jesus. My first instinct was to back away. I had grown up hearing that he was just a prophet, that Christians placed him in a position that wasn't his, and now he was there with me. In that moment, I felt torn between what I had learned and what I was experiencing. He didn't say anything with words, but I heard him inside. Every thought of his seemed to go straight into my heart. He called me by name. When he said, "La," it was as if I had come home after a lifetime of being lost. I cried, and I didn't cry from fear or guilt. I cried because for the first time I felt completely known, completely loved, and that was so real, so strong, that it seemed impossible to deny. I tried to resist. I said to myself, "But I don't even believe in you," and he responded with a look I will never forget, "But I always believed in you." When I looked at his hands, I saw the marks, the holes, the scars, and in that instant, everything inside me began to crumble. My defenses, my doctrines, my fears. I was standing before the one who died for me, and he knew it. He knew everything, and yet he continued to look at me with that indescribable love. I felt completely disarmed. He wasn't there to force me to believe in anything, nor to accuse me of having lived a different faith my whole life. Jesus was simply there, being who he is, and that alone was transformative. Every detail about him shaped the way he looked at me, the peace that emanated from him and that strange certainty that he had known me since the beginning, even before I was born. At no point did he say to me, "You're wrong," but I knew deep down that everything I had believed up to that point was just a small part, a piece of the puzzle. He showed me that I had lived trying to deserve God's love all the time, trying to be perfect, to obey everything, to pray more, to do more, and yet, deep down, I was never certain that God accepted me. But with Jesus it was different. I didn't need to prove anything, I didn't need to explain myself, I just needed to be there. He showed me the cross, It wasn't a symbolic image, it was real. I felt some of his pain, the pain of the weight, the pain of separation, the pain of rejection. It was horrible, intense, and all that for me. He said something that never left my mind: I didn't come to give you a religion, I came to give you me. That disarmed me. It was as if everything had been revealed at once. I understood that everything I tried to achieve through effort, through performance, had already been won by him. I understood that God's love isn't something you earn, it's something you accept, and that Jesus was indeed the living Son of God, present with me. He didn't force me to believe, but after being before him, I could no longer doubt. That's when everything changed again. He showed me something, I don't even know how to put it into words. It was like he opened a curtain and let me see what lay beyond. First, I saw a place so beautiful that I could barely look directly at it. The colors seemed otherworldly, everything was alive, even the light seemed to sing. People of various languages and cultures were there together in perfect harmony. I saw ex-Muslims, people who had been through something like what I was experiencing, and no one there seemed afraid or in a hurry. Everyone was at home. I felt such a profound joy, a sense of belonging that I had never experienced on earth. I wanted to stay, I truly wanted to stay there forever. But Jesus, with a gaze full of love and firmness, showed me something else, a place completely opposite, an emptiness that hurt just to look at. I saw faces there, and what destroyed me most was their look of regret. They knew the truth now, but it was too late. There was no going back. It was real, painful, and Jesus told me, this is why I died, so that no one would need to come here. At that moment, I understood why he found me. It wasn't just about me, it was also about who would come after me. He showed me scenes of my future, people who would hear my story, moments of rejection, yes, but also of transformation, Muslims who would dream of him, people who were searching but afraid to doubt. He said, you will be a bridge, you know their hearts, and many will find me through you. I cried again because I knew what it meant. I knew the price, the pain, the loss, but at the same time, I knew it was true, that there was no going back. He told me that I needed to return, that my time wasn't over yet, that there were people praying for me, and then he said something that burned into me like fire. Don't be ashamed of me, tell the truth, I will be with you. It all happened so fast, the light began to fade, and I felt as if I were being pulled back with a force that tugged me violently. I tried to hold on, I tried to stay, I begged him, please, leave me here, don't make me come back, but he just said, I'm not leaving you, I'll be in you. Those words accompanied me as I was thrown back, as if I were going through a dark tunnel at high speed. The pain returned suddenly, as if my body had been forcibly reconnected. A weight in my chest, an absurd pressure in my lungs, as if I were trying to breathe underwater. My eyes burned with the hospital light. I heard hurried voices, the noise of machines. Someone shouted, he's back, we have a pulse, and then I felt he had come back, but I was no longer the same. The Layla who died on the floor of that shopping mall wasn't exactly the same one who opened her eyes there in that room full of tubes and beeping machines. The doctors said it was impossible, that after 8 minutes without a heartbeat, I shouldn't have come back, and even if I did, I was expected to have lasting effects. But my mind was clearer than ever, and all I could think was, I saw Jesus. When a nurse came to adjust the machines next to me, I took her hand and told her with all the certainty I had, I saw Jesus, he is real. She smiled sympathetically, thinking that it was the effect of the medication or the trauma, but for me, it was more real than anything I had ever experienced. In the following days, the doctors called me a miracle. They said they couldn't understand how my heart started beating again, how my brain responded so quickly, how my organs were reacting so well, but the miracle wasn't just physical, it was spiritual. I had returned with the truth burning inside me, and I knew I wouldn't be able to keep it to myself. When my parents arrived at the hospital, my mother burst into tears. She kept repeating, Alhamdulillah, thanking Allah for bringing me back. My father, more composed, held my hand and said I was a warrior, that faith had saved me, and I wanted to hug them, to say that I was happy to see them too. but something inside me had completely changed. I could no longer pray as before. The words that came to my mind were different. I remembered what Jesus had shown me. His words, his gaze. I remembered the cross, heaven, hell, and that he commanded me to return to tell the truth. Then I remained silent for days. I only heard my parents thanking God for a miracle that, for them, came from Islam. But I knew the truth, and with that came fear. How would I tell them that I was no longer a Muslim? How could I say that I now believed Jesus was the Son of God? Back home, the feeling was strange. Everything seemed the same. My Quran books were still on the bookshelf. The prayer rug in the corner of the room, the scent of the incense that my mother lit every morning, but inside, I was in ruins. I felt like a stranger within my own family. During my recovery, many people from the community came to visit us. They brought food, read surahs around me, hugged me as if I were a sign of Allah's power, and I smiled. I gave thanks, but inside my heart was screaming. I could no longer pretend. I prayed silently alone, but now saying, Jesus, give me courage, show me when to speak. I wanted that exact moment to come. I knew it would come, but part of me wished it would never come because I knew what that conversation would bring, and I wasn't ready to lose everything I still had. I knew it was time. I couldn't live that charade anymore, so I called my parents to sit with me in the living room. I remember exactly their position on the sofa, the tension in the air, as if my heart already knew that nothing would ever be the same again. They thought I wanted to talk about the trauma, about the shooting, about the pain, but when I said I needed to tell them what happened when I was dead, everything changed. My mother came closer, her eyes full of expectation. Did you see paradise, daughter? Did you dream of angels? I looked at both of them and said, I saw Jesus. The silence that followed was like an abyss. My father frowned, my mother froze, and before they could say anything, I continued, I saw Jesus Christ. He spoke to me, he brought me back, and now I believe he is the Son of God. My father jumped up and started pacing in Arabic, saying it was madness, that I was confused, that I was being deceived. My mother began to cry, begging me to stop, saying it was the devil, that I was deluding myself, but I continued. I spoke calmly and firmly. I said that deep down I knew what I was saying would hurt, but I couldn't deny it anymore, that I was no longer in Islam, that I was a Christian, that I believed in Jesus as my Lord. My father's face hardened. He shouted that I was a disgrace to the family, that he would rather have no daughter than an apostate. My mother asked me to deny everything that she said. It was just a moment of confusion, but it wasn't, and I said so clearly. It was at that moment that my father pointed to the door and said, You have 1 hour to leave my house, you are no longer part of our family. I went to my room crying, my chest burning, as if the gunshot that had killed me was hurting again. Silently, I put some clothes in a backpack, I grabbed my cell phone and my ID, I looked around and saw everything that had been with me my whole life, the childhood photos, the handkerchief my grandmother gave me, my school books, my favorite perfume. It was as if everything there was telling me, you no longer belong. When I went downstairs, my mother, she was standing in the doorway, her eyes red, holding the necklace she'd given me for my 16th birthday. She didn't say anything, just held out her hand, asking for the necklace back. I gave it back. She turned her face away. My father was standing with his back to me, his fists clenched. I went outside. The door slammed shut behind me with a sound I'll never forget. I was trembling on the sidewalk. I had left everything behind. My home, my family, my culture, but I still had one thing, Jesus, and it was with that certainty that I grabbed my cell phone and called the only person who could understand me, a classmate from school who was a Christian. Her name was Emily. I'd only spoken with her a few times, but something told me she would listen. When she answered the door and I told her, I need help, my family kicked me out, I've become a Christian, she didn't hesitate for a second. Come to my house now, she said. Her mother greeted me with a tight hug. They gave me food, a hot bath, a room with a clean bed, but more than that, they gave me shelter. They told me, you're not alone, we had been praying for you since the day of the shooting. I cried for the first time. I cried peacefully. That simple house became my refuge. In the following days, other people from the church came to meet me. They brought me clothes, gave me a Bible, called me sister, called me daughter, and in that environment so different from what I was used to, I felt something I had never felt so strongly. Belonging. 3 weeks after I left the hospital, the day of my baptism arrived. The church where Emily attended was small, simple, without any fancy equipment. But what I felt there was stronger than any mosque I had ever been to. When I entered the auditorium, everyone stood up and began to sing a song I didn't know, but it made me cry. I can't explain it. It was as if every word of those lyrics was being written directly on my heart. The pastor hugged me and said, "You are now part of He, but today you will declare it to the world." I entered that water trembling, not from cold, but from reverence. I remembered every word Jesus said. I remembered the light, the cross, heaven and hell. I remembered everything I left behind and everything He promised me. When I said, "I believe that Jesus Christ is the Son of God," my voice came out firm. I was no longer a scared girl, I was a daughter. When I submerged myself in the water and came out, I knew, the old girl had died completely and what was born there was a new person. In the days that followed, the pain of rejection continued to visit me. I received harsh messages from relatives, I was blocked by Muslim friends, the community imam called me an apostate in a public meeting, some even threatened to come after me. I felt watched, in danger, but at the same time at peace. Every time the fear I tried to grow, remembering His words, "I am always in you," and that was what kept me going. I started studying the Bible every day with Emily and other girls from church. Every verse seemed to confirm everything Jesus showed me in that experience. It wasn't just a religion, it was real, it was alive, it was true. I also started sharing my testimony in small groups. Some young Muslim women sought me out secretly, crying, saying they also had doubts, that they too had felt something different in dreams with Jesus, and I told them, "He is calling you, just listen." Today marks 3 years since the shooting, 3 years since my life stopped and began again in a way I never could have imagined. My family still doesn't speak to me, I wasn't invited to my sister's wedding, my mother doesn't answer my messages, and sometimes that pain resurfaces like a wound that never fully heals. I still dream about them, I still pray almost every night to God to touch my father's heart. Sometimes I think that if they knew what I saw, if they had felt what I felt everything would be different. But then I remembered that God is patient and that He continues working even when we don't see it. I continue to pray for them and continue to love each one with all my heart, even from afar, because the love of Jesus taught me that, to love even when we are not loved in return, to believe even when everything seems impossible. In these years I have spoken with dozens of young people who left Islam in silence. Many had dreams, visions, encounters they couldn't explain. Others only felt an emptiness that no prayer could fill. And every time someone tells me, "I heard your story and I understand that I'm not crazy," I'm certain that it was all worth it. The pain, the loss, the abandonment, because if even one person found Jesus through all of this, then nothing was in vain. Sometimes I still look to the sky and ask, why me, God? Why did the Lord choose me, so weak, so full of fear? And deep down, the answer is always the same. It wasn't because I was strong, it was because He is, and that's what sustains me to this day. I've tried to explain what I went through in every way. I've told it to pastors, psychologists, and doctors. Some listen with respect, others try to find a neurological, chemical, or emotional explanation. I understand. If I hadn't lived through this, perhaps I would also have doubts, but there are things that can't be captured in an MRI, there are things that can't be explained logically. I know this, I know who I saw, I know who I found, I know what He told me, and no matter how many years pass, no matter how much my life goes on, nothing, absolutely nothing, has erased that light that enveloped me. Sometimes when I'm alone in my room with the Bible open in my lap and the room silent, I feel that presence again. It's subtle, almost imperceptible, but it's Him. I know it as if He were reminding me, I'm still here, and the strangest thing is that nothing like that ever happened again. I never had another dream, I was never taken away again, I never saw that light again. It was as if it all happened in a single moment, quick, intense, and eternal, and then, silence, normal life, as if it had been a window that opened and closed at just the right time and now only exists inside me. Even today, sometimes I wake up and wonder, was all of that real? But then I remember who I was before and who I am now. I remember the peace I feel when cold, the courage that came from a place that isn't mine, the faith that doesn't let go even when I want to give up, and then I know, yes, it was real, so real that it changed everything. My name is Layla Hussein, and I died at 17, but it was there that I was truly born. The story I shared with you isn't just about pain or resignation, it's about rediscovery, about finding that God can find you even in the most unlikely places, even when everything seems lost. I learned that faith isn't about deserving, it's about trusting, and that sometimes to truly live, we need to die, even if only inside, to be reborn. Now I want to ask you, what would you do if everything you believed in your whole life were turned upside down in a single moment? Would you have the courage to follow the truth, even if it cost everything? Comment below, tell me what you thought of this story, if anything touched you, or even if you've already had an experience you can't explain. I read all the comments. Oh, and if you enjoyed this video and want to receive more stories like this, subscribe to the channel now and turn on notifications. This is very important so you don't miss any content that can also transform your life. And if you want to support this project but don't know how, you can become a member of the channel by clicking the join button below. If this greatly helps keep this content going and reach even more people. And before you go, click on the video that will appear here on the screen. It's another testimony that will deeply impact you. See you in the next video.